fabled heat, where magic meets desire. Subscribe to ignite the fantasy.
The musty halls of Cranbrook Asylum carried a chill that wasn't from the crumbling stone underfoot, but from something else. It wasn't cold, not exactly. It was a prickling awareness, an electric charge hanging thick in the air, a primal challenge that resonated deep within my bones. Every hair on my arm stood alert, a silent chorus of warning. I wasn't sensing eyes watching from the shadows, not in the conventional sense. It was more like a pressure, a weight, as if the very stones themselves were observing, judging. Broken windows stared like hollow sockets, their shattered panes reflecting only darkness, and fragments of my own face superimposed over the decay. The glass crunched under my boots with each step, a brittle counterpoint to the heavy silence. The scent of ozone was the first thing I noticed, sharp and metallic, overlaid with something far more complex, a musky animal scent, undeniably male and familiar. It clung to the air, heavy with unspoken secrets, with the ghosts of rituals and desperate pleas. It was a scent that stirred something dormant within me, a recognition I couldn't quite place. Footsteps echoed too loudly in the hollow corridors, each footfall a deliberate declaration, a beacon calling to what, not shadow monsters, not the things the villagers whispered about. This hunt wasn't for creatures of nightmare, it was for Reese and Kaelin. Their names were whispered like curses in the taverns, spoken with a mixture of fear and a strange, unsettling reverence. Men accused of things I was now tasked with bringing to an end. The atmosphere vibrated with raw energy, making my skin prickle with anticipation and a growing unease. It wasn't fear, not precisely. It was respect, a grudging acknowledgement of the power that resided within these walls. I tightened my grip on the hilt of my sword, the cold steel a grounding presence against the rising tide of sensation. The air tasted like dust and something akin to burnt sugar. Around the corner, their presence hit me like a forge blast. It wasn't a gradual increase in intensity, but an abrupt, overwhelming surge. The scent intensified, becoming almost intoxicating, and then I heard Reese's voice. It rumbled through the darkness, low and husky, a sound that seemed to bypass my ears and vibrate directly in my chest. "You're either brave or stupid." The words weren't accusatory, not exactly. They were an assessment, a challenge. Kaelin's laugh followed, smooth as a velvet-wrapped blade, deceptively gentle. It sent a shiver down my spine, a response I hadn't anticipated. "Perhaps a little of both, darling." His voice was lighter than Reese's, more melodic but no less dangerous. It held a playful edge, a hint of amusement that felt predatory. I rounded the corner fully, and the sight of them stole my breath. They were standing in what had once been a grand ballroom, now stripped bare and decaying. Moonlight streamed through the broken windows, illuminating them in stark relief. Reese was leaning against a crumbling pillar, his dark hair falling across his forehead, his eyes, those impossibly silver eyes, fixed on me with an intensity that felt like a physical touch. Kaelin was closer, pacing slowly, his movements fluid and graceful like a panther. He was all sharp angles and controlled power, his dark clothing blending with the shadows. Their shadows pulsed with dangerous light, not from any external source but from within them. Heat radiated in waves, washing over me, promising both passion and ruin. It was a tangible force, a magnetic pull that threatened to unravel my composure. I could feel the energy crackling between them, a silent conversation conducted through glances and subtle shifts in posture. Reese's hand tightened on the staff he held, a gnarled piece of wood that seemed to hum with power. Kaelin's fingers traced the edge of a curved blade, the steel gleaming in the moonlight. They weren't preparing to fight me, not yet. They were sizing me up, evaluating my worth. "You're a long way from the Citadel, aren't you?" Reese asked, his voice still low, still rumbling. He didn't bother with pleasantries. He didn't need to. I forced myself to meet his gaze, refusing to flinch. "I go where I'm needed." It was a standard response, a carefully crafted deflection, but it felt hollow, even to my own ears. Kaelin stopped pacing and turned to face me fully, a slow, deliberate movement. "And what need brings you to Cranbrook, little soldier? To cleanse us of our wickedness." He said the word with a mocking inflection, as if the very concept was absurd. "To uphold the law," I replied, my voice firm, despite the tremor that ran through my limbs. Reese chuckled, a low, dangerous sound. "The law, a quaint notion in a place like this. The law has no power here, only power." He pushed himself off the pillar and took a step towards me, closing the distance between us. "You've been misinformed," Kaelin said, his voice soft, almost a whisper. He moved with a sinuous grace, circling me like a predator. "We don't defy the law, we simply operate outside of it." I could feel their combined gaze on me, dissecting me, stripping away my defenses. It was unnerving, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. I was a trained warrior, a veteran of countless battles, but I'd never felt so exposed, so vulnerable. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice barely a breath. Reese stopped a few feet away, his silver eyes burning into mine. "We want to be left alone." Kalen's hand reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead. His touch was surprisingly gentle, yet it sent a jolt of electricity through my body. "Is that too much to ask?" He leaned closer, his lips hovering just inches from mine. "Perhaps we could offer you something in return." The air crackled with unspoken promises, with the weight of their desire. I knew with a chilling certainty that this wasn't a hunt for criminals. It was a test, and I had a feeling I was failing spectacularly. My sword felt heavy in my hand, suddenly useless. This wasn't a battle I could win with steel. This was a battle for my will, for my very soul, and I wasn't sure I was strong enough to resist.